Okay, let's unpack this. Picture it. December 2022. A lab in Livermore, California. Scientists, they've been working on this for decades, literally decades. And they're about to announce something, well, huge. For just a split second, inside this tiny, tiny capsule, they did it. They actually coaxed more energy out of a fusion reaction than the lasers put in.
Yeah, the holy grail, really. Ignition.
Exactly. Ignition. The news just exploded. Newspapers everywhere, headlines screaming about it, sent this wave of excitement.
Investors definitely sat up and took notice. Big time.
But you also had the skeptics, right? The ones who've heard the fusion is coming story before. Probably a collective sigh there.
Well, yeah, it's been a long road with previous moments of hype.
Right. So this one experiment, decades in the making, it reignited this massive promise, didn't it? Limitless, low-carbon power.
The kind of thing that could fundamentally change everything. Economies, society, our climate future.
But, and this is the key thing we'll explore today, it's not a straight line. The story is far from simple or, guaranteed. Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources, research papers, news articles, reports, you name it, and we boil it all down for you. We give you those crucial nuggets of knowledge, basically a shortcut, so you're really up to speed.
And today, we are diving deep into nuclear fusion. It's captivating, complex, definitely controversial at times.
You've probably seen the headlines, heard the buzz, maybe caught some of the skepticism too.
Our job today is to sort through all that. Get past the hype, look at the real picture, the nuances, maybe some surprising angles.
So our mission is pretty clear. We want to explore fusion's past. It's got a fascinating history.
Yeah, full of twists and turns.
And then delve into the psychology, the politics around it, which is just as important. Unpack the controversies, the debates.
And really try to understand what it actually means for a sustainable future. What are the real prospects?
We're drawing on a whole range of stuff here. Official lab announcements, academic research, those industry reports that track the money, major media coverage, a real mix.
Yeah, trying to get a 360-degree view.
So whether you're, prepping for a meeting, just curious about the future of energy, or maybe you just want those aha moments without drowning in info. This deep dive is for you. We'll aim for clear summaries, but also those memorable details, those surprising facts that make it stick.
Sounds good. Where do we start? The beginning, I suppose.
Exactly. To really get where we are now, you have to go back. Way back. From starlight, believe it or not, to the lights in our labs.
It's kind of amazing, really. The basic idea, fusing light atoms together for energy, it didn't come from trying to build a power plant. It actually came from astrophysics back in the early 20th century.
Trying to figure out the sun.
Exactly. Scientists like Eddington, Hans Bethe, they were tackling that ancient question, how does the sun keep burning? For billions of years. And they figured it out. It's nuclear fusion. The immense pressure, the heat in the core, it forces hydrogen atoms together, they fuse into helium, and boom, huge energy release.
That's what powers the stars.
That's it. So naturally, by the mid-century, researchers started thinking, well, could we do that here on Earth?
Bring a piece of the sun down to us.
That was the dream, yeah. Harness that power.
And that early thinking led to some foundational concepts. You mentioned Lyman Spitzer?
Yes, Lyman Spitzer, junior, brilliant astrophysicist, early 1950s. He proposed the stellarator.
One of the very first ideas for how to actually hold on to the plasma, right? Keep it contained.
Right. You need incredibly hot gas, plasma, millions of degrees. How do you hold it without it touching the walls? Magnets. And the story goes, he had this eureka moment on a ski lift in Aspen. Sketched the basic idea on a napkin.
That's amazing. Not some huge government project, just inspiration.
Exactly. It shows how much curiosity, just pure scientific improvisation, mattered back then, just as much as funding, maybe more.
So the stellarator was first. Complex shape, twisted magnets.
Very complex. Yeah, designed to create a stable magnetic bottle. But then came another design, the tokamak.
From the Soviet Union.
That's right, late 1950s. Tokamak, it's an acronym, basically means toroidal chamber with magnetic coils, simply shaped like a donut.
And it used a current inside the plasma itself to help create the magnetic field.
Yeah, which in early experiments turned out to confine the plasma a bit better, more efficiently.
So that set up a kind of rivalry. Stellarator versus tokamak?
Kind of, yeah. And that rivalry in different forms has actually continued. Different labs, different countries often favored one or the other. The tokamak became dominant for a long time, though.
Okay, so the basic physics is figured out. Early designs are emerging. Then the Cold War kicks in. How did that change the game?
Oh, it changed it dramatically. From the 50s through the 70s, fusion research wasn't just science anymore. It became this intense, often secret, international race.
Partly national security.
Definitely. Understanding plasma physics, this superheated, ionized gas, was directly relevant to nuclear weapons research and stewardship. How materials behave under extreme conditions, high energy densities. Fusion research provided crucial data.
But also the energy aspect. The grand prize.
Absolutely. It was seen as this ultimate energy source. Imagine limitless power, not dependent on foreign oil or coal. Huge strategic advantage. So it became a techno mission.
A government-funded race.
Exactly. Lots of early machines were classified projects in national labs around the world, US, Soviet Union, UK, and they tried all sorts of designs, tokamaks, stellarators, magnetic mirrors, pinches, exploring every path they could think of.
It was a real shift, wasn't it? From theoretical astrophysics to a major government mission.
A huge cultural shift in how big science was funded and pursued.
So after that initial kind of frantic, secretive phase, what happened next? Did things open up?
Yeah, gradually. From the 1970s through the 2000s, you entered the era of, let's call it, big machines, big dreams.
Okay.
This is when the idea of large international collaborations really took hold, building machines that were much closer to the scale needed for an actual power plant.
Like JET in Europe.
Exactly. The Joint European Torus in the UK started up in the early 80s, a huge tokamak. And TFTR in the US, the Tokamak Fusion Test Reactor at Princeton.
And the biggest one of all, ITER.
ITER, yeah. The International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. Conceived back in the 80s, a truly massive global collaboration now being built in France.
These projects sound incredibly expensive and slow.
They were, and are, unbelievably expensive, billions of dollars, and incredibly slow to design, approve, build. ITER is a prime example of that complexity.
But necessary.
Absolutely essential. You couldn't just jump from small lab experiments to a power plant. These big machines were crucial for understanding plasma behavior at much higher performance levels, testing plasma stability, how heat escapes, confinement times, getting the real-world data needed to validate the physics and engineering at scale. They laid the groundwork.
But they also contributed to that infamous joke, right? Fusion is always 30 years away.
Oh, definitely. That quip haunted the field for decades. Because progress was slow, the engineering challenges were immense, often underestimated, promises were made, deadlines slipped, funding waxed and waned.
It captured that frustration, that sense of perpetually just over the horizon.
It did. But then, maybe starting in the 2000s, accelerating into the 2010s, and especially the early 2020s, things started to shift again. Two big things happened, almost in parallel.
Okay, what were they?
First, that scientific breakthrough we mentioned, NIF achieving ignition in December 2022. That was huge psychologically and scientifically. Proof of concept, energy gain in the lab, finally.
A major validation.
A massive validation for inertial confinement fusion, yes. And second, you saw this incredible surge in private investment, startups suddenly raising serious money.
Bringing new ideas.
New tech. Exactly. Applying new materials, especially high-temperature superconductors, for magnets. Using advanced computing, AI, for modeling and control, bringing maybe a more agile Silicon Valley-style approach to the problem, trying to accelerate things.
So the big lab breakthrough meets this wave of private capital and innovation.
Right, and those two forces together really changed the narrative. It brought back a lot of optimism, but also, naturally, a lot more scrutiny on those commercial timelines. Was the 30 years away joke finally dead, or just reset?
And that brings us right up to the very recent past, the last couple of years.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is just how fast the story shifted from purely science to actual commercial bets. NIF didn't just hit ignition once into 1022. They repeated it successfully multiple times in 2023, showing it wasn't a fluke. Consistent, measurable energy gain in the lab, that really solidified the scientific proof.
And the private sector ran with that momentum.
They sure did. Companies like Commonwealth Fusion Systems, CFS, Helion, TAE Technologies, they started publishing these really aggressive roadmaps.
We're talking specific projects now.
Yes. Like Spark from CFS aiming for net energy demonstrations soon, like late 2020s, and then their power plant concept, ARC, targeting grid delivery in the early 2030s.
That sounds incredibly fast compared to the old timelines.
It is, and you have Helion signing actual power purchase agreements, PPAs, with Microsoft. Microsoft basically saying, if you build it, we'll buy the power.
That's a huge signal to the market.
Massive. And Helion started construction on demonstration plants. It marks this real pivot from just hitting technical goals goals to building commercial narratives, attracting serious money based on future energy delivery.
It feels different this time, somehow.
It does feel different. Whether the timelines hold is still the big question, but the level of activity and investment is unprecedented.
And just quickly, going back to that early history, it's worth remembering those little details, right? Like Spitzer's ski slope idea predating tokamaks.
Yeah, or the fact that early experiments in the 30s and 40s sometimes used basic things like glass tubes. It wasn't all billion-dollar machines from day one.
It reminds you that curiosity, that spark of ingenuity, was always there. Improvisation was key.
Absolutely. It adds that human touch to the whole grand scientific story.
Okay, so we've traced the science, the machines, the history. But the path forward isn't just about physics or engineering, is it? There's a huge human element here.
Oh, absolutely critical. The psychology around fusion, how society reacts to it, that's arguably as important as the technology itself.
And fusion seems to trigger really strong, almost primal responses.
It really does. You see these two archetypal reactions playing out constantly. Techno-optimism and techno-pessimism.
Okay, explain those.
Techno-optimism is that deep belief that technology will save us, right? That ingenuity will solve big problems like climate change. For these people, fusion is the ultimate solution. Clean, limitless. It feels almost like a moral imperative, a way out of our fossil fuel mess.
Kind of silver bullet narrative.
Exactly. But then you have techno-pessimism, a deep distrust of grand promises, especially technological ones. They worry that focusing on a far-off miracle cure like fusion creates false hope.
And it distracts us.
Yeah, distracts us from doing the hard work now with the tools we already have, renewables, efficiency, lifestyle changes. They fear fusion hype actually delays climate action.
And underneath these reactions, there are probably cognitive biases at work.
Oh, for sure. Optimism bias is a big one. We tend to overestimate the good outcomes and underestimate the challenges or timelines, especially for something appealing like fusion.
We want to believe the good news.
Right. Then there's availability bias. Those splashy headlines about breakthroughs, like NIF, are very vivid. They stick in our minds and make the solution feel much closer, much more certain than the long, hard engineering road ahead actually warrants.
And present bias, focusing on now versus later.
Yeah, that makes us prefer immediate actions, like installing solar panels today, over investing in long-term, high-risk R&D like fusion, even if the potential payoff for fusion is vastly larger down the road. It's just human nature to focus on the present.
How does this play out in public opinion generally? Do people support fusion or nuclear power broadly?
It's nuanced. Research, like from Pew, shows many people support expanding nuclear power in principle as a low-carbon source. But
There's always a but.
always. Big worries about safety, about waste, even if fusion's waste profile is different, and about fairness. Who benefits? Which communities bear the risks? Fusion inherits some of that historical baggage associated with the word nuclear.
So this raises a really important question, doesn't it?
It does. How do these deep-seated psychological patterns, these biases, these public concerns, actually influence the real-world decisions? How do they shape funding, policy, deployment strategies for something like fusion? It's not just about the volts and amps.
And these psychological factors feed into social dynamics too, right? Like who supports fusion and why?
Definitely. Fusion has become, in some ways, a powerful social signal, particularly in elite circles, VCs, tech leaders, policymakers.
What do you mean by social signal?
Well, publicly backing or investing in fusion signals that you're forward-thinking, serious about climate change, committed to cutting-edge solutions. It looks good, frankly. It helps with fundraising, with public image.
So it becomes desirable for reasons beyond just the energy itself.
Potentially, yes. And that dynamic could inadvertently favor these big, high-tech, centralized solutions like fusion over, say, more distributed community-scale energy options, which might not have the same wow factor even if they're effective.
Interesting. And even if the tech works, you still have to build these things somewhere.
Yeah.
Which means dealing with communities.
Exactly. The NIMBY effect, not in my backyard. It affects wind farms, solar farms, power lines, and it will absolutely affect fusion plants. People might support the idea in general, but resist having a facility built near them due to concerns about safety, aesthetics, property values, whatever.
So getting community buy-in, navigating local regulations, that's a whole separate challenge.
A huge one. Deployment isn't just about engineering. It's about social acceptance and political navigation.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. How does the idea of fusion change how we think about energy right now, our behavior?
Yeah, the impact on our collective imagination. Fusion holds out this promise of energy abundance, almost an end of scarcity.
Which sounds great, but
Right.
there's potential downsides.
Well, if people start believing that limitless clean energy is inevitable and just around the corner, could that subtly undermine efforts towards energy conservation? Why bother saving energy if there's going to be plenty of clean stuff soon?
Like the too cheap to meter promise with fission back in the day.
Exactly. It could lead to rebound effects where perceived future abundance actually encourages more consumption now. It's a psychological risk.
But there's a flip side, too.
Oh, definitely. If commercial fusion starts looking genuinely credible, it could unleash massive investment in electrification. Suddenly, powering electric vehicles, heating homes with electricity, decarbonizing heavy industry with electric processes, it all looks much more feasible if you assume abundant clean power is coming.
Even powering things like AI data centers.
Especially those. The energy demand from AI is skyrocketing. Believable fusion could remove a major perceived constraint on that growth, shifting norms about what's possible or acceptable in terms of energy use for computation. It could reshape whole industries.
So let's pivot to the present day. Politics, markets, culture. Big players are getting involved now, aren't they? It's not just labs anymore.
Not at all. You've got major tech firms, governments putting serious money in. It signals this shift from academic curiosity to perceived commercial necessity.
Like Google and Microsoft.
Yeah, exactly. Google's invested, signed PPAs. Microsoft has deals with Helion and others basically pre-ordering fusion power for their data centers.
And why are they so interested? It's not just PR, presumably.
No, it's strategic. They have these massive and rapidly growing energy needs for their data centers, especially with AI taking off. They also have ambitious climate goals, net zero commitments.
And existing renewables aren't quite enough.
Well, renewables are great, but intermittent. Data centers need power 24/7 reliably. That means you either need massive amounts of energy storage to back up solar and wind, or you need a clean, firm power source, one that's always on. Fusion potentially offers that. Plus, it could help decarbonize industrial processes that need high, steady heat or power.
So it fills a specific gap in the clean energy landscape.
That's the hope, yes. A crucial gap for certain very large energy users.
And the money flowing in. It's changing the whole conversation.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that surge in private capital, billions in the early 2020s, according to groups like the Fusion Industry Association, isn't just funding research, it's actively forming a market. It's building credibility for fusion as a future industry, not just a science project.
Moving it out of the lab and into the boardroom.
Precisely. It changes the public debate, makes it feel more tangible, more driven by market forces and timelines, not just government research cycles.
And the media loves it, right? Fusion is everywhere.
Oh, it's a fantastic story. Futurist pieces, documentaries, magazine covers. It's got that sci-fi appeal.
But the headlines swing wildly.
Completely. One week, it's fusion breakthrough could power the world. The next, it's fusion still decades away, experts warn. It creates this emotional roller coaster.
Which must affect public perception, investor confidence.
Hugely. It's almost like, as you said, a narrative economy around fusion. Every announcement, every funding round, every skeptical article shifts the mood, influences decisions. The story itself becomes a powerful factor in its development.
Okay, given all this noise, all this hype and counter-hype, we really need to demystify things. Let's tackle some common myths and controversies head-on.
Good idea. First big one. Fusion breakthrough means power plants are coming soon. Or NIF ignition means we've solved it.
Yeah, that leap from lab result to grid power seems large.
It's vast. Demonstrating energy gain in a single shot or even a few shots in a highly controlled lab environment like NIF is worlds away from building a fleet of reliable, cost-effective, grid-connected power plants that run continuously.
So what are the actual hurdles? The big engineering gaps?
Okay, several huge ones. Materials science is probably top of the list.
The stuff the reactor's made of.
Exactly. The inner walls face this intense bombardment of high-energy neutrons from the fusion reaction. This isn't just heat. The neutrons physically damage the material over time.
Making it brittle, weak.
Yeah, embrittlement, swelling, cracking. They can even transmute elements within the material, changing its properties. And crucially, this neutron bombardment causes activation. It makes the structural materials themselves radioactive.
Ah, so that leads into the waste issue.
It does. We need entirely new materials, advanced alloys or ceramics that can withstand this punishment for years, decades inside a power plant without degrading and becoming too difficult to handle. That's a massive R&D challenge.
Yeah, materials. What else?
Continuous operation. NIF fires a shot, then needs hours or days to cool down and reset. A power plant needs to run constantly, or at least in very rapid pulses, maybe 10 times a second for some designs.
That's a huge difference in repetition rate and heat management.
Immense. You need systems to handle the heat exhaust, control the plasma stability second by second, remove impurities. Achieving that sustained economical operation is a whole different ballgame than a single successful experiment.
And the fuel.
Tritium.
Tritium fuel cycle, yeah. Tritium is a radioactive isotope of hydrogen. It's rare, and it decays relatively quickly. So fusion reactors need to breed their own tritium fuel.
Oh.
Usually, the idea is to surround the plasma chamber with a blanket containing lithium. Neutrons from the fusion reaction hit the lithium atoms, splitting them and creating tritium. So you're running a nuclear reaction and a chemical processing plant simultaneously inside the reactor.
Essentially, yes. You have to efficiently breed the tritium, extract it safely, purify it, and re-inject it as fuel, all in a closed loop without leaks. It's incredibly complex.
And even if all that works, economics.
Economics is the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Even if technically feasible, can you build these plants cost-effectively enough to compete with solar, wind, storage, existing fission? Fusion plants will likely have huge upfront capital costs. Integrating them into the grid, getting regulatory approval, it's a long, expensive road to commercial viability.
So wow, amazing science.
It used building-sized lasers, specialized, expensive targets, fire infrequently. Our sources are clear. It's hardly a power plant blueprint. It's physics validation, not an engineering shortcut.
Okay, myth busted. Next one. Fusion makes no radioactive waste. You touched on activation.
Right. This one needs nuance. Compared to traditional fission reactors, fusion produces far, far less long-lived radioactive waste. It doesn't create those high-level fission products like plutonium or strontium that last for tens or hundreds of thousands of years. That's a huge advantage.
But not zero waste.
Definitely not zero. As we said, the neutron activation of the reactor structure, the walls, the blanket, the magnets does create radioactive materials. These are typically shorter-lived isotopes, decaying over decades or maybe a century or two, making disposal easier. But it's still radioactive waste that needs careful management, handling, and disposal.
So the profile is different, maybe better, but it's not waste-free.
Exactly. Understanding that distinction is crucial. It's about a different kind, amount, and time scale of waste, not a complete absence. Public misunderstanding here is really common.
Which means we'll need specific regulations for fusion waste, right?
Yeah.
Not just applying fission rules.
Absolutely. New frameworks will be needed to handle licensing, decommissioning, and disposal safely and transparently.
Okay, let's tackle the big controversy. Timelines and hype. This seems to be where the fiercest debates are happening.
It really is. You have startups making very bold claims talking about power on the grid by the late 2020s or early 2030s.
Which many experts find ambitious.
Ambitious is putting it mildly for some. Deep concerns exist that this risks repeating past cycles where the hype train got way ahead of the actual engineering reality. Skeptics worry that too much investment is chasing headlines rather than patiently solving the fundamental, thorny engineering problems we just discussed.
They fear another fusion winter if these promises aren't met.
That's the fear, yeah. A loss of confidence drying up a funding. But the counter-argument is strong, too.
What do the advocates say?
They argue that this time is different. They point to genuine technological breakthroughs. Those high-temperature superconducting magnets allowing smaller, potentially cheaper reactors, advanced manufacturing like 3D printing for complex parts, powerful AI and simulation tools speeding up design and plasma control experiments.
So they believe these new tools genuinely change the equation, justifying the accelerated timelines.
That's the core argument. That these aren't just incremental improvements, they are game changers that break the historical pattern of slow progress. And honestly, both sides have valid points and evidence. Predicting the future here is incredibly difficult. It's a central tension.
Amidst all this focus on the energy endgame, is there anything else coming out of fusion research? Any side benefits?
Oh, absolutely. This is a lesser-known truth, but a really important one. Even if grid power is still a way off, the R&D itself generates valuable spin-offs.
Like what?
Well, the development of advanced superconducting magnets hasn't just helped fusion. It's been crucial for things like MRI machines in hospitals. The materials science work pushes the boundaries for high-performance materials used elsewhere.
What about electronics? Neutron sources?
Yep. High-power electronics, sophisticated control systems developed for fusion find other applications. And the understanding of neutron physics leads to better neutron sources used for medical isotope production or for non-destructive industrial imaging looking inside components without damaging them. Compact magnets could also find use in transport.
So it's not an all-or-nothing bet on energy. There are near-term dividends.
Exactly. The research yields value along the way. It's an incredible engine of innovation across multiple fields, even before the first commercial kilowatt hour is delivered. That ripple effect is significant.
Let's dig into the different camps of expert opinion now. It's clearly not monolithic. Who are the main optimists?
Okay, the mainstream optimistic cluster. This usually includes many leading scientists actively working in the field, definitely most of the startup CEOs, and the venture capitalists funding them.
And their argument rests on?
It rests on that potent combination we discussed. NIF's success as proof, plus the impact of new technologies like high-temp superconductors, advanced materials, AI simulations, and modern agile engineering approaches. They genuinely believe these factors can compress timelines dramatically compared to the old, large government-led projects. They see an inflection point now.
And they point to tangible progress.
Absolutely. They point to NIF's repeated ignition shots, the rapid construction and testing phases of private machines like CFS's Spark Arc or Helion's prototypes. And crucially, they highlight the market validation, those big investments from tech giants, the PPAs being signed. That, for them, is proof that serious players believe commercialization is near.
Okay, so that's the highly optimistic view. What about a more measured take?
Then you have the, let's call them measured or conditional optimists. This group might include some academics, independent energy analysts, maybe established energy institutions. They see fusion's promise, definitely. They think it's incredibly valuable research.
With caveats.
Exactly. They tend to view fusion as likely being complementary to other renewables and storage, rather than a near-term replacement for everything. They emphasize the remaining engineering hurdles and the challenges of scaling up.
So their timeline is longer?
Generally, yes. They might see widespread fusion power as more of a multi-decadal prospect, maybe mid-century or later, rather than early 2030s for significant grid impact.
What's their policy advice then?
Usually a balanced approach. Keep funding fusion R&D robustly. It's a vital long-term bet. But simultaneously, double down on deploying the mature, low-carbon technologies we have today. Solar, wind, batteries, efficiency. Don't wait for fusion. Act now with what works now.
Which raises that crucial balancing act question again, doesn't it?
It really does. How do you allocate resources effectively? How do you balance investing in a potentially game-changing future technology against the urgent need to deploy proven solutions immediately to meet climate targets? It's not necessarily either, but finding the right mix is key.
And finally, the skeptics and critics, what's their main line of argument?
This group often includes researchers who've seen previous waves of fusion hype, some energy policy analysts focused on economics. They constantly remind us of the field's history of overpromising and underdelivering on timelines.
But their core point is often about
opportunity cost. That's the central theme. They argue that every dollar, every brilliant engineer, every resource poured into uncertain long-term fusion R&D is a resource not spent on deploying proven, cost-effective climate solutions right now.
like more wind turbines, more solar panels.
Exactly. Grid upgrades, energy storage deployment, demand-side management programs, things that demonstrably cut emissions today. They argue that focusing too much on fusion risks, diverting resources from solutions that offer guaranteed immediate climate benefits.
What do they demand?
Rigorous, independent peer review of all commercial claims, especially before public money gets involved. Transparent, realistic timelines and milestones. Accountability for the massive investments being made. Essentially, prove it before you scale it with public funds.
Okay, let's make this more concrete with some specific case studies. NEF first.
Right. LLNI IFT ignition, December 5th, 2022. We have to keep stressing. Physics milestone, not a commercial template.
What did it actually achieve?
In simple terms, their lasers delivered about 2 megajoules of energy to the tiny fuel capsule. The fusion reaction inside produced about 3 megajoules of energy out, a net energy gain from the capsule itself. Monumental science.
Validated the physics.
Decades of physics understanding about inertial confinement fusion, yes. Showed ignition is possible. But again, huge lasers, expensive targets, low repetition rate, not a path to power.
But it acted as a catalyst.
Absolutely. It hugely boosted confidence, attracted investment, changed the narrative. Critically important for the whole field, even if NIF itself isn't the blueprint for a power station.
Okay, let's unpack Commonwealth Fusion Systems, CFS. The MIT spin-out. This is a prime example of trying to crack the code differently, isn't it?
It really is. They're using a tokamak design, that donut shape, but their key innovation is those high-temperature superconducting magnets we talked about, REBCO magnets.
Which lets them build smaller.
Much smaller for the same magnetic field strength. Stronger magnets confine the plasma better, allowing you to potentially reach fusion conditions in a more compact, less expensive device compared to traditional designs like ITER.
And their roadmap, Spark and ARC.
Spark is their demonstration device, currently under construction. The goal is to demonstrate net energy, gain more power out than in for the whole system, hopefully in the late 2020s. If that works, ARC is their concept for a commercial power plant, targeting grid delivery in the early 2030s.
So this is really banking on that magnet technology being the game changer.
It's central to their strategy, yes. Shrinking the device, reducing cost and time. Of course, critics still point out they face huge challenges in building Spark, proving it works reliably, and then scaling up to ARC, plus regulatory hurdles. But the magnet innovation is real and significant.
Now, helium. Different approach, right? And that Microsoft deal.
Yeah, helium uses a different confinement method, sometimes called magneto-inertial fusion or field reverse configuration. It involves compressing plasma with magnetic fields and pulses.
And the Microsoft PPA.
That power purchase agreement is fascinating. Microsoft has essentially agreed to buy electricity from Helium's first power plant, targeted for 2028 delivery. Helium is also starting construction.
So that's market formation in action.
Exactly. Having a major customer like Microsoft commit to buying the output helps Helium secure financing and de-risk the project. It demonstrates commercial demand, which is crucial for attracting further investment. It's less about the specific tech here and more about the commercial strategy and private sector confidence.
And then there's ITER, the giant international project. How does that fit in?
ITER is kind of the counterpoint to these faster private ventures. It's still the world's largest fusion experiment designed to demonstrate sustained burning plasma on a massive scale, 500 million W of fusion power.
But it's slow and complex.
Incredibly so. It involves 35 nations, huge budgets managed by committee, complex international supply chains, political negotiations. It highlights the immense challenges of doing science by international treaty.
So what's the lesson from ITER versus, say, CFS or helium?
It shows there are different paths. ITER is about fundamental, large-scale plasma science demonstration, less about rapid commercialization. The private companies are leveraging specific tech innovations, trying to get to market faster. And it really underscores how geopolitics and collaboration models deeply affect timelines for these huge science projects. Even with the same physics goal, the human organization matters immensely.
That leads nicely into looking at how different parts of the world view fusion. It's not the same everywhere, is it?
Not at all. Very distinct regional approaches and cultural framings.
The U.S. seems very private sector-led.
Very much so. Framed as this high-risk, high-reward tech venture, driven by venture capital, tech billionaires, startups spun out of universities like MIT and Stanford. It fits that Silicon Valley mindset. Move fast, iterate, disrupt, aim for the massive win.
It fits that entrepreneurial spirit, doesn't it? That idea of a big swing for a big win, lots of competition, lots of hype too.
Definitely. Europe generally more cautious, more state-led.
Focused on ITER.
Big focus on ITER, and previously JET. More emphasis on public funding, international collaboration. Stronger focus maybe on safety regulations, labor standards, methodical long-term planning. A bit more conservative, perhaps, but also building on decades of public investment.
Correct.
Massive state investment. Fusion is explicitly part of their national energy security strategy and industrial policy. Huge government funding for both fission and fusion R&D, aiming for global leadership in advanced energy. They're building their own large experimental devices very quickly. It's a top-down, nationally coordinated effort.
And the global south, developing nations.
Interest is mixed. Some see fusion as a potential future leapfrog technology, skipping the fossil fuel phase to get clean industrial power, but often the immediate priorities are far more basic.
Energy access now, deploying affordable renewables like solar and wind that are available today.
And equity concerns.
Big equity concerns. If fusion power arrives and it's expensive, who gets it first? Will it just power data centers in rich countries? Or will it genuinely help bridge the global energy divide? Those are critical questions being raised. So the narrative varies hugely. A symbol of progress here, a distant science project there.
Exactly. In some places, it's a powerful symbol of technocratic achievement and national pride. Elsewhere, it's just elite science with little connection to daily life or immediate needs. Culture and context shape everything.
Okay, let's pull back and do a critical analysis.
Yeah.
Strengths, weaknesses, risks. Let's start with the positives. What are fusion's biggest strengths?
Number one has to be the energy density and fuel availability. The fuel deuterium from seawater, lithium to breed tritium is incredibly abundant compared to fossil fuels. The amount of energy packed into a tiny amount of fuel is just immense. It fundamentally changes the resource constraints we face.
That's a profound shift, all right.
Second, low operational emissions. No CO2 during operation is obviously huge for climate change, and as we discussed, significantly less long-lived radioactive waste compared to fission. Easier to manage, shorter timescales involved.
And the strategic value.
Huge strategic value in providing firm, low-carbon baseload power. That reliable 247 energy is crucial for industry, for stabilizing grids with lots of renewables, and for those power-hungry data centers and AI applications. It enables deeper electrification across the economy.
Okay, sounds great. Now the flip side, weaknesses, technical hurdles still remaining. You mentioned materials.
Materials and neutronics remain a massive challenge, yeah. Developing, testing, and mass-producing materials that can survive decades of intense neutron bombardment inside a power plant is arguably the single biggest engineering hurdle. Damage, activation, it's incredibly demanding.
Continuous operation in tritium.
Still major hurdles. Achieving that sustained, reliable, economical operation day in, day out, not just short bursts. And managing that complex tritium breeding cycle efficiently and safely within the reactor itself. These are huge systems engineering challenges that haven't been fully solved or demonstrated at scale.
And economics and scaling up.
Even if the tech works perfectly, can we build thousands of these plants affordably? Can they compete on cost with renewables, which are still getting cheaper? Scaling up the manufacturing, supply chains, workforce, regulatory approvals. The sheer logistical and economic challenge of deploying fusion globally is monumental. We shouldn't underestimate that.
Beyond the technical, what about societal or political dangers?
So it's not just about the science and engineering, it's about navigating these complex human systems to ensure the benefits are shared fairly and safely, avoiding new problems.
Like the opportunity cost issue.
Exactly. The risk that overinvesting or overhyping fusion diverts critical resources and attention away from deploying the climate solutions we have now. False hope could slow down near-term action. That's a real danger.
And inequitable distribution.
If early fusion plants are very expensive or primarily built to serve specific industries like tech data centers, could it worsen energy inequality? Concentrating power in wealthy nations or corporations, leaving others behind? That risk needs active management.
Regulatory or safety surprises.
Dealing with new materials, tritium-activated components, it requires new regulatory frameworks. Any accidents, safety scares, or failures in transparency could severely damage public trust and set the whole field back decades. Getting the regulation and public engagement right is absolutely critical.
This leads us to some key questions policymakers need to be asking, right? A kind of checklist.
Yes, definitely. First, are funding decisions balancing fusion R&D appropriately with immediate decarbonization needs using proven tech? Is the portfolio balanced?
Second, are regulatory frameworks being actively modernized now for fusion's unique aspects, like waste and tritium? Proactive planning is essential.
Third, the big one. Who will own and benefit from early fusion plants? Public utilities, private firms. This directly impacts equity and access. Need to think about governance models.
And fourth, is transparency and independent review rigorously required before public money flows or permits are granted? Accountability is key.
Absolutely. Which raises that overarching question. For a technology this potentially transformative, how do we ensure the governance, the policy, the societal discussion keeps pace with the science and the commercial rush? That's the challenge.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, why does fusion still matter so much, despite all the challenges, and where do we go next?
It matters because the potential payoff is just so enormous. Fusion isn't one single thing. It's this convergence of science, engineering, finance, powerful narratives, and critical social choices. If commercialized successfully, it really could be transformative, providing clean, firm power for industry, enabling AI and data growth sustainably, drastically reducing long-lived nuclear waste. It offers a pathway to genuine long-term energy abundance.
But history warns us.
History and psychology strongly counsel caution, yes. Scientific milestones like NIF ignition are amazing, absolutely necessary. But they are not sufficient. A lab result is not an energy transition. There's a mountain of work still ahead.
So how should we approach it?
Treat it as a high-value gambit. Invest intelligently, yes. Regulate carefully, absolutely. But crucially, don't let the hope for a future miracle replace concrete action on the deployable solutions we have ready today.
It's about being smart, being hopeful, but also being grounded in the present challenges.
Exactly. A balanced perspective is key.
So, maybe a final thought for you to consider. If fusion does deliver on its promise, it won't be because of one single headline or breakthrough. It will be because thousands of small incremental engineering choices worked out, because countless social agreements were reached, because regulators adapted wisely, because cultures shifted. The real test won't just be if the technology works. It will be whether we deploy it equitably, making sure everyone benefits, and whether it arrives in time to meaningfully complement renewables, storage, and efficiency efforts already underway. Just having the tech isn't enough. After this deep dive, what stands out most to you about fusion's future? What new questions does this raise for you about our complex energy landscape? Join us next time on The Deep Dive for another journey into the knowledge you need to be well informed.